Cuphead is an indie icon. The 2017 run and gun sticks out with its tough yet fair gameplay, incredible art style, and its live-recorded big band soundtrack. All of these factors together makes this love letter to the art styles of the 30s and the run and gun gaming of the 80s one of the best indies in the past decade, if not in general. Now, every soundtrack of course needs a composer, and Cuphead is no exception. Kristofer Maddigan hasn't worked with video games prior to Cuphead, but he was the right guy for the job. After studying swing theory for countless hours, he achieved his goal that he set out for himself when he started the Cuphead OST. To not make it feel like a guy from the 2010s made swing music for a video game, but instead to ask, if the golden age of swing and gaming existed at the same time, what would those artists have created? The answer is Cuphead's fantastic soundtrack, which not only stands on its own as a great game OST, but just as a good swing soundtrack in general. I was honored to be able to interview Kristofer recently on his work and process, and not only am I going to share our questions and answers, but provide some analysis and commentary as well.
I mean, I think the music is fairly different than most video games, in that it's just linear. It's linear tunes.
Right.
I mean, you can. I don't remember what I discussed. If I repeat anything you heard in the video, I apologize. But I mean, I don't have any experience really writing in any other medium or for any other game. So this is kind of like, for me, when I was like thinking about approaching it, that's what made the most sense. Like just actual like full length song forms. So regardless of the style or what constraints there were, like the challenge was to stay true to that, but I still wanted to create full tunes. The thing that affected most, I think, was just trying to keep the music upbeat and exciting. Yeah. A lot of those tunes would work just as well, or maybe even better, like slower, but Chad, the producer, was, he was always like, I would send him mock-ups and he'd be like, no, it's gotta be faster. So, I mean, that would be the main, if you were writing those tunes for concert performance or something else, then there would be no need to make them quite so frantic. You could have the same music and you could make it a bit less manic in a sense. So keeping it, the approach for video games, I think, was to keep it really exciting, and the playing, the musicians are incredible, but the musicians are incredible, but the playing is really sort of, it sounds like it's on the edge, which is like kind of the sound we were going for also.
I'm surprised that more games don't take this approach. Perhaps something to do with technical limitations, or they just don't want to find a way to conclusively end a song.
The run and gun levels were just those were added. Those were part of the the dream scope that they had originally, that they had pared back a lot. And then as the game got more buzz, and as they got picked up by Microsoft, and as they kind of kept delaying it, partially because they wanted to get it right and they wanted to add all the things in. Because originally they had, the game that they made was basically what they wanted to make from the beginning, but they didn't have the resources as a first-time company to have done that. So, but then as the process went on, E3 2015 was a big boost. So all of these sort of other, the game expanded back to its original scope, and they wanted these run and gun levels. And I just wanted those to be different also. So I kind of went with I wanted them to be like a fast, like, again, trying to find like something stylistically that's, they're all similar, but they stand out from the game in a sense. So, for that also, much like some of the world maps, I was like, okay, well, let's do like a small group kind of ragtime thing. And that was really inspired a lot by, if you've seen any videos of Tom Breyer.
No, I haven't. Wait, maybe. Oh, wait, isn't he the piano guy, the ragtime piano guy?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal piano player. And he had a bad car accident 5 or 6 years ago, so he's still, I think, pretty like messed up, and I don't think he's able to really play, which is really unfortunate. But those were inspired a lot by his approach to playing, and he had a trio also that he played with, which was piano, piccolo, and washboard Kitty Wilson, who was like his washboard player. So that was kind of where I got the idea for the just that instrumentation. But I kind of wanted all those to be. Those are not my favorite tunes in the game. A lot of them, but they work as the set of their own things, and they sound different from the levels, and they sound different from the bosses.
Chris is a huge fan of ragtime, and I'm surprised that he only really makes it shine in these levels. You can definitely hear it in other parts of the game, but it's interesting that it's highlighted just here. Perhaps because it fits the running theme of it a bit more, while most of the levels you're in a fairly tight quarters. Or maybe you just thought it was the best way for the levels to sound cohesive with each other.
It was just like there was only so many. So originally there's this whole the music that became Elder Kettle's music was originally going to be one of the water, like the world map music, and it's a waltz because it was inspired by there was going to be a water world. This is going to be very convoluted. There was going to be a water-based world, and all of Koji Kondo's music in Mario for water stuff is in waltz form. So I was inspired, I was like pay tribute to that by writing a waltz kind of in ragtime. And really there's only like those three tunes in particular were very inspired by the Joplin's rags. And he kind of has there's three. He's got this, his standard rag, which would be the Inkwell Isle 1. There's 6/8 March rag, which was Inkwell Isle 2. And then he's got 3 or 4 beautiful ragtime waltzes, which would have been one of the Inkwell Isles. Then it became Elder Kettle's. His music became the tutorial. So everything kind of got shifted around late in the game. But and so after that, I was it was just trying to find again there's no more. I didn't want to repeat one of those ideas. But there's also staying in that style. There's not really much more that I felt at the time that I could have done with it. So I just wanted to go sort of outside of that. And so Inkwell Isle 3 is maybe a little anachronistic. It's maybe getting into the bebop era to an extent. But that was just, it wasn't, I just kind of wanted to have an evolution of the tunes. And that one in particular works. It's, it's a city, kind of a greasy sound.
Hearing about all these changes was really fascinating, and it makes you wonder how other games have been developed and had their songs shuffled around. Sometimes the importance of the theming of a song isn't as important, as seen here, but it ended up working out in the end. It still had that Inkwell theme, but managed to do its own thing, sort of. So I think it worked out.
And I think some of the ones I just kind of went through and picked themes that I thought were maybe the strongest, and also maybe the ones that were some of them, I think some of those tunes would just not fit in any reasonable sense in that, and some of them you could slot them in really easily. So, and I knew I couldn't put them all in, so it was just trial and error to an extent, and other than the ones I knew I wanted in, the really strong themes, Cliff Joint, Floral Fury, those kind of things. The Charleston rhythm with the tap dancer. Really, a lot of the really distinct kind of sounds too, I thought would be really useful to have in that. So.
Yeah, I think distinct is a good way to put it, because I think pretty much all the really standout instrumentation, that was all in there, and that was really cool. Especially the tap dancing. I really love how that was brought back for that theme.
That whole thing turned out really, it flows together it was partially also choosing things that flowed together. Like if something wasn't going to fit, there was no point in just putting them in. Like you were still trying to weave them together in a way that made sense. So there was some trial and error, and I think there were probably some themes that I tried to put in. Like this was a long time ago, but there were probably themes that I tried to put in and couldn't fit, and then just said whatever, it doesn't need to be there.
A lot of games, when they do a sort of mashup song, feel the need to include every single melody, even when it doesn't work. So it's really cool and smart that Chris only picked the ones that work the best, and it really shows in the song.
Oh, she was improvising the whole thing. Like she had the track to sort it out. Like she like any of the solos on the thing. It was improvised. Like I told her when I wanted her to be doing stuff, but it was up to her at that point to do what she wanted because that's like an improvised solo in a lot of ways. So, and if you watch I was at MagFest a couple of years ago with Console. There's a video on YouTube. And if you watch, I played woodblock for that because we didn't have a tap dancer there. And if you watch that and compare it to the thing, you'll realize that a lot of what I played, I just stole from her performance because it was so good. So
I'm amazed that was like not only improvised, like an action for that was really.
Oh, she's Allison's an incredible dancer. So. And she liked that tune because also there was a lot of space for her to work. Like it stops, and she was able to just dance without trying to like fit in with other. She was able to just be herself. That was nice.
One of the major benefits of doing live recorded music is definitely the interesting instrumentation, and Chris takes full advantage of that. Especially something like tap dancing, which you wouldn't normally consider as musical, it's totally able to shine here in Cuphead. In terms of the tap dancing and Sally's stage plays fight, it actually feels almost like diegetic background music, as Sally is also wearing tap dance shoes and is dancing around as you fight her, which is really interesting and unique.
Some are objectively on fire, and those are ones that we want to use more than others. But a lot of it was just we hired good musicians and they know what they're doing and they all sounded great. And it was just a lot of it was trying to, divvy it up somewhat evenly, I think, amongst the players. Don't put, 10 piano solos and then and five trumpet and trombone solos, make it even. So there was just some work to our ears worked better in some places than in others, and so that's what we. It was very subjective, I think, in a lot of ways, the way we chose it. But it's nice to have the options to do different things.
I brought up something similar to this in my interview with Mark Sparling, where I thought, what if a game could sort of change the music based on the player's actions? For example, a different solo would play if the player makes option A, and a different solo if the player takes option B. It could be really interesting. It could be another form of interactive sound, while also not being diegetic, which I feel like is pretty uncommon.
We talked about what would be the best tune for that, and we just determined that Floral Fury was exciting and unique enough that it was probably the best. There were other tunes that would have worked. One Hell of a Time was one that could be tossed around a lot. I think Clip Joint also. Clip Joint's one of my favorite tunes from the game, and that was maybe on the list at one point, but I know we decided on Floral Fury very early, and everyone agreed that that was kind of that. So a lot of people think One Hell of a Time would have been a better choice, but
both are good.
What can you do?
I asked this song because I was curious about how much creative freedom composers get when they put their songs in other games, similar to Waterflame. I'm glad to hear there seems to be a decent amount of it. It must have been hard to pick one song that represents the entirety of Cuphead, but I think they made a pretty solid choice.
I don't know if any of them were easy. Some of them came together quicker than others. Clip Joint was not bad. Botanic Panic was also not bad. Without looking at a list in front of me. Pyramid Peril was challenging, but it came together well, and I really like how it came together. That's also one of my favorite tunes. Floral Fury, to an extent, kind of. I mean, some of them, there's parts where some of them kind of wrote themselves, which doesn't always happen. Some of the ones that were hard, Shootin' and Lootin' was very challenging just to get the voicings. The chord, it's a very standard chord progression, but it took me a long time to get the voicings how I wanted them. Like a long time. I don't know, like I wouldn't say that any of them were easy, they were just varying degrees of hard. So.
And it's relative, I guess.
Yeah. I'd have to look. Definitely now, like there's a whole bunch of tunes that I would do very differently. Anyways. Probably would have, would have been a lot easier this time around.
As Chris mentioned, there's a lot of songs that he would have changed if he could take another stab at them. But at the same time, I feel like there has to be a stopping point. I think he got that too. So, it's a weird example of a time crunch for a game actually being beneficial to the soundtrack by simply having an endpoint that still works out.
I can kind of answer this, maybe. The process has expanded. I don't think it's changed. It's probably I'm better. I learned a lot on the first game. I would say that it's streamlined, but I can't say much.
Yeah, no, I just I get that.
I think
so.
what I will say is the DLC is going to. I think people are going to. The music, compositionally speaking, anyways, the DLC is going to make the first game seem very amateurish.
Wow.
I'm very happy with a lot of what is there. Not amateurish in a bad way, but like I think there's a lot more cohesive, and yeah, that visually it's also like it's absolutely stunning. So
Definitely looking forward to that. That is crazy. Something that topped the original. That I'm really excited.
It's gonna be very special when it comes out for sure. But the process, it's just like I think you just get better at doing things, and ideally with each project or with each segment of each project, you learn something. And hopefully it gets easier. That still was not DLC is not I guess if you're also always challenging yourself and trying to not do the same thing twice, which is something that I do to an extent, it's always that's challenging for a different reason. It's always trying to not repeat, and so it could have I could make things easier on myself, but don't really want to.
Chris seems to be taking the same approach with the DLC soundtrack as one should take for a DLC or a sequel of a game, which is taking the original ideas and expanding upon them and making them better than ever before, and that's really cool to see within every component of the game and not just like the gameplay. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Right.
Many years ago.
Many years ago, even before it came out, or just when it was out?
Not before it came out. We didn't get it until the day before it came out.
Wow.
But I beat it, and that was that. I think I S-ranked a few levels, and I was like, that's good enough. I have no urge to do the whole game on expert or get any of the platinum awards and whatnot.
I couldn't imagine.
I think it's. I mean, to an extent, grew up playing games like that, and the thing about Cuphead is it plays very well. So it's challenging, but it's not frustrating. So
Yeah, it's very fair and has a lot of a one more time kind of thing with it. You know, like
yeah, and even I know some people complain about the RNG elements, and I think that's if you get screwed over by a random thing that happens in the game, that's not very often, and I think it does make the game a lot more exciting and like it's ever evolved, like much like the music where like it's maybe a different version of that tune each time you play the level. It's not ever quite the same, which is something that I appreciate with their design choices.
This was sort of a fun question to wrap up with, just because Cuphead's known for its difficulty, and I was curious if its composer had finished it himself. That's all for now, folks. Thank you so much to Kristofer for taking the time to have the interview, and thank you for watching.